Welcome to YOUCANIC. In this video we're going to show you how to replace these magnet sensors, intake and exhaust on this Mercedes. Here we're doing the driver's side, and this is more time consuming and it requires more steps than the passenger side. So the first thing you'll do is you will need to make sure the engine is cooled down. After that, drain all the power steering fluid with a suction pump to pull this out, because we'll have to take this off. And the way that you remove the power steering fluid is you have 3 bolts. We have one here, one here, and one here, and it requires a T30 drive bit. Once you remove those 3 bolts on the back here, you can see that right there, you have this clip, alright? So you'll have to pull this, and you're going through here, and you need a flashlight for this as well, and then you pull on that, it comes straight out. It does require a little bit of force, but it'll come out. And then this, you just pull forward and tilt it down. Now we have a video that shows you how to do all the steps on that, in case you need help with that. But once that's removed, then it's really easy to remove these magnets. For this right here on the intake side, the shop manual might show you that you need to remove this oil cooler right here, but we're going to do it without taking that off, okay? And all that you'll need is a 1/4 inch wrench, just for this lower bolt right here, okay? And it's pretty straightforward. We're eliminating, taking this off and losing oil and replacing the gasket on that. So we'll start with this right here. We'll remove these bolts. These are E8. Again, 1/4 inch socket also works on these, but you get these, remove these, okay? And this one right here, and that. Let's see if I can get to this one, and I can't. Alright, so let's remove this one here first. There's that. And the sensor, you have to disconnect this electrical connector. The thing to keep in mind is you get this gray tab right here, but you need to push this and pull that up, alright? So that unlocks it. Once you do that, then you have to press here and then pull the connector off. That's a little bit tricky, but now that you know how to do it, it will be easy. Now we pull this sensor out. And you want to avoid dropping that down the engine bay. And you want to cut this part where that falls down and this whole trouble. So once you remove the 3 bolts, then you'll come here and you just pull this out and remove it. Alright, so when you install the new sensor, make sure you have this O-ring right here still, and then make sure that the old O-ring has come out, okay? So you'll take this, and it does help to lube the new O-ring just a little bit. It just makes it a little bit easier to go in. Alright, so we'll take that and you just push this in. I don't want to hit this because it'll damage it. Alright, so here we're getting ready to install the new one. You're gonna make sure that you lubricate the new sensor. Put a really thin layer of oil on this part as well, because that's got to slide, and on the O-ring, okay? Make sure the old O-ring is out, and then you'll install only one O-ring. And the other thing that I like to go alternate between these screws here, so that you're not pushing the sensor in just on one side and it goes in crooked. It's just not going to go away in if that's the case. But put a few threads on each bolt and then go to the next one. Alright, as soon as I feel some resistance, I just move to the next one. And I'm looking here at the sensor, the gap between the sensor and the case. There, it's still a couple of millimeters, so I'm just looking at that to make sure that gap is basically gone. And then you should torque these bolts. And for torque specs, look in our step-by-step instructions. Should have that in there. Okay, so that's it. Alright, so put that and then okay, so next we're gonna do this one right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove this sensor just so to give us a little bit of room, because it's either this, that's just one bolt, or this oil cooler over here. It's got 4 bolts and oil is gonna leak out, and also, or coolant I should say, and need a new gasket and everything. So this here is a lot simpler. So we're gonna take that. I'm just gonna move this off into the side like that. Okay. Just to make it a little bit easy, let's just get this out of the way as well. Get that bolt off. So these are E8 Torx bolt, but again, a 1/4-inch socket will also work on these. And that's what we're using here, 1/4-inch wrench to get off these bolts right there. This one will require a little bit of patience to get that off. Just to speed that up a little bit. Not putting much force on that, it's coming right out. Okay, so that's off. Now we got one more down here. That's the tricky part of it. Is just gonna take some time to get this bolt off. But this is helping right here. I'm pulling with my finger from underneath and pushing this on top, like so. It's coming out. There. Now we just gotta take this sensor out. Alright, it looks like we do have to take this one out as well. And there's the sensor. It didn't even have to take out this oil cooler right here. Okay, so we're gonna install a new one, lubricate that, really thin layer of oil on that piece, and also the O-ring. Make sure the old O-ring is out. Take the new sensor, and then we're gonna install it. Putting any force on that just to get that screw threaded. And then the only downside with this is that we can't push or thread the bolt on the bottom at the same time. Well, I guess we'll possibly can. I like to get that a little bit in a little bit more. So we're gonna put this lower bolt. Gotta be careful here. You're doing this because you don't want to damage this or put too much force on that. A bit lower. So here we're reinstalling this magnet sensor over here, and we had an issue with the aftermarket unit. The tolerances on this one were slightly bigger, so this was like 1 millimeter bigger in diameter, and it just wouldn't go in there. So we had to get an OEM one to put that in there, and that went in pretty easily. So if you do end up buying these aftermarket ones and you're having issues with that going in, one thing that you could do is remove this O-ring right here, and then take a light sandpaper and just rub it around here just to make this a little bit smaller, and that should be enough. But would recommend going with OEM sensors in this case, just so you can avoid those headaches. And this bolt right here went pretty nice on the bottom. Just need to tighten that. Takes time and patience. Since we didn't remove this oil cooler over here, that is definitely worth the patience and dealing with that. So remember, a 1/4 inch wrench works just fine on these. Okay. And if you have questions as far as torque specs go, you can look in our step-by-step guide. We should have those in there. Install these camshaft position sensors that we have to take out. Make sure the O-ring is there. If you're concerned, you might want to label these connectors because you don't want to interchange them. So we're pretty much done with these magnet sensors and the camshaft position sensors over here. So let's go ahead, connect that. Press that down to lock it. That just locked there. Gotta lock that right there. And then lastly, this one, this magnet sensor on the intake side. Should press these gray pieces down to lock them. And that's it. All we have to do now is we gotta reinstall this power steering reservoir. We would simply, since you are this, it's recommended to replace this O-ring right here. These do tend to leak over time, so if you got a high mileage Mercedes, do replace that. You would put the power steering in, and then you'll put this clip right there. You can see that you gotta be careful because this could slide fall down there, but that's pretty straightforward there. And then install the bolts, tighten the bolts for the reservoir, and fill it up with power steering fluid before you start the engine. That's it. Thanks for watching.